Night tragedy in Mississauga.
At this time, I am saddened to say that 5-year-old child has died as a result of the injuries that they sustained.
The child struck and killed by a vehicle while trying to cross the road. We'll have more on what happened. Plus,
and I'm probably going to hear a good couple of curse words out of her about why haven't you been here, expletive.
families look to reunite with loved ones living in long-term care as the province moves to loosen restrictions. And Toronto Public Health confirms a COVID-19 outbreak among staff at a designated quarantine hotel near Pearson Airport. We'll tell you why they won't be shutting it down. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. We begin with tragic news from Mississauga tonight, where a 5-year-old boy has died after he was struck by a vehicle while crossing the street on his bike.
Just before 6 p.m., Peel Regional Police, along with our partners from Peel Paramedics and Mississauga Fire and Emergency Services, attended the intersection of Ontario Street and Elm Drive in the city of Mississauga in regards to a collision. Initial investigation has revealed that the child was attempting to cross the road when the child was struck by a vehicle that was traveling northbound.
Police say the child was dragged for a short distance after he was struck. The little boy was rushed to hospital where he later died. The driver of the vehicle remained at the scene and is cooperating with police. Peel's Major Collision Bureau has taken over the investigation, and they're asking for any witnesses or anyone with dashcam footage to contact them. A man in his 30s was rushed to hospital with critical injuries after he was stabbed several times at Royal York Station. The police were called to the station in Etobicoke on Royal York Road, north of Bloor Street, shortly before 4 o'clock this afternoon. Police say they don't know if the man was stabbed on the train or on the platform. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. And finally, some good news for those with loved ones in long-term care. The province announced today it's loosening some restrictions, a move that experts say will improve the quality of life for some of those hardest hit during the pandemic. Now, our Natalie Collada is live outside a long-term care home in Toronto tonight. There she is. Hi, Natalie. Natalie, what can you tell us about those changes?
Hi, Keldo. We're for family members who have loved ones in long-term care facilities like this one where I am here. This is a big deal. This is a return to normalcy that many haven't experienced in about 14 months. Some tell me they are excited, but at the same time, skeptical.
As tough as she is, she's deteriorating. But it'll be overwhelming, it'll be inspiring, and it'll be really good.
The last time Michael Swans saw his 94-year-old mother in person at her long-term care home was July.
We sat there with her for 15 or 20 minutes and watched her sleep, but knowing that she was breathing in front of me and at least alive made it a lot better. I could deal with it.
Today, the provincial government announced it's relaxing restrictions in long-term care homes, once again allowing communal dining, activities, and if fully vaccinated, hugs.
This is, a basic human need that we are finally giving back to residents. So I think this will be critically important.
Nearly 4,000 long-term care residents died during the pandemic. Many others declined sharply under the months of isolation. Experts call it confinement syndrome.
And it's a term that's actually taken from prisoners who are put into solitary confinement and have prolonged sensory deprivation. And what we saw from that was people who lost a lot of weight, people who went from being able to walk to being wheelchair bound, from recognizing their loved ones to no longer recognizing them.
With a cohort of residents fully vaccinated for months now, Stahl says the new directives could have come sooner.
We still have a ways to go towards normalcy within these long-term care homes. And so, hopefully when the stay-at-home order lifts, if it lifts in a couple of weeks, they'll rapidly move towards allowing these people the freedoms I think they should have probably had a month ago.
It's a start. For Swans,
I'm still waiting to get that one notice that says, yes, with your inoculation, you can come in. We get weekly updates. They've gone back into outbreak. It makes me feel frustrated. Like me, she's getting pretty impatient and she's wondering when things are going to change.
now, among those changes that could be coming, Kelda, once the lockdown and stay-at-home orders start to ease even more, could be the idea of more outdoor visits residents of care homes like this one being allowed to go out during the day and then return for things beyond just those essential medical trips, which they're limited to now. There is, as Dr. Stahl said, a long way to go, but at least it's a start. Kelda?
Thanks so much, Natalie. That's our Natalie Collada reporting live for us tonight. There's more pressure on the provincial government today over its handling of the long-term care system during the pandemic. Last Friday, the Long-Term Care COVID-19 Commission released a report that found mistakes were made and Ontario seniors were put at risk. Today, NDP leader Andrea Horwath is calling for the Minister of Long-Term Care to resign.
Speaker, this minister has tried to save the Ford government and save her own reputation instead of saving people in long-term care. How can anybody expect this minister can fix things when she can't even admit to her mistakes? Will she resign today? Take ministerial accountability for the things she was supposed to do and didn't do to protect seniors in long-term care.
In response, the Minister, Mary Fullerton, once again said she inherited a broken system and placed the blame on previous governments.
Look at your failure. I was left to pick up the pieces from a devastating 15 years of neglect. I will not be spoken to that way by the Leader of the Opposition that neglected this sector.
Fullerton says the government has already been addressing many of the issues identified in the report. Ontario's Education Minister confirmed today that online schooling will be an option for Ontario students in the fall. But Stephen Lecce wasn't able to offer any certainty around the remainder of this term and whether students will be heading back into the classroom. Our Ali Chiasson has the details.
Before getting to the funding announcement, Education Minister Stephen Lecce addresses the lingering question about a possible return to class before the end of this school year.
While we all want in-class learning to return this spring, we will not take risks with your child.
He didn't outright say no, but for now, schools remain closed and the government isn't budging.
That decision is going to be informed by the advice of the Chief Medical Officer of Health, and his opinion to the government has not changed in the matter.
Instead, today's announcement is forward-looking to September.
Our government is making over $2 billion in resources available to protect students and strengthen learning in the classroom.
$1.6 billion will be allocated to protecting schools from COVID-19, to be put towards things like temporary staffing, PPE, access to testing, and money to maintain those upgraded ventilation systems. That's the health and safety stuff. There's also a focus on mental health and re-engaging students to the price tag of $85.5 million, which goes towards summer learning, access to tutors, mental health professionals in school, and extracurricular activities.
Some of those expenditures are inevitable and desirable.
Kelly Gallagher-Mackay is a Wilfrid Laurier professor specializing in educational inequality.
By next September, it'll be almost 18 months that students have had their schooling deeply disrupted.
Some kids are really facing challenging learning online.
The minister also announced that virtual learning is going to be an option next year too. After a year of teaching it, Chantal Perrin has some advice.
What I would have liked to see in September, that kids who are going to be staying online are going to be committed until the end of the school year and not changing back and forth.
Studies suggest the inconsistency and stress has resulted in students being about 2 months behind.
It's huge, the long-term potential impact of skill loss.
Much of the funding is temporary as it relates to the pandemic, but its impact on student health is long-term.
I just don't think what we see here is a plan that will get us there.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Colette Kennedy joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, another day of gray skies and some rain and fog.
Thanks, Kelda. Well, I've been, sensing a bit of frustration from folks with some of the cloud-covered gray skies and the wet weather. We have to just keep thinking about the positive nature of it and what it's going to do for the grass in the gardens and things like that. But we're still in it tonight. Things do improve. The sun will be back for us. in the latter part of the day on Wednesday. So let me just play this through for you. Still some isolated showers, a little drizzle that we're getting into as well, and mist, and that cloud deck has been pretty extensive. So we keep it into the morning, but see how things break up. It may be later afternoon before we really get some good sunny breaks, but we will be seeing those clouds breaking up. And as they do, we'll see what the sun looks like once again there. And just keeping in mind, it sets almost at 8:25, so there'll be plenty of time to enjoy it in the evening hours. 8 degrees, though, tonight's temperature, and tomorrow up to 13 for the high, Kelda.
Thanks, Colette. We have an update to our coverage of an outbreak of COVID-19 at a quarantine hotel near Pearson Airport. Toronto Public Health confirming tonight that there are 13 confirmed cases in staff members at the Crown Plaza Hotel. They add that instructions have been provided to staff who are positive, as well as those who may be considered a close contact. Toronto Public Health says the risk to the public is low and that right now they will not order it to close as it provides an essential service. Despite the rain and cold, plenty of people were at a pop-up vaccine clinic in Scarborough today.
I'm so happy because I'm scared to, get sick.
I have 2 kids also. I'm so confused to get this one. I really need to get it today. Yeah, I feel excited actually.
We've heard a lot about hesitancy, or we say lack of vaccine confidence. But as you can see from the lineup, people are coming out. So that's very, very encouraging.
This clinic taking place at St. Florence Catholic School in Malvern. A number of people we spoke to say they tried booking online or on the phone but found the process to be slow. Only about 24% of Malvern residents have been vaccinated. Now, that compares to a vaccination rate of about 34% in the rest of Toronto. Justin Trudeau and top public health officials are again seeking to reassure Canadians about vaccines today. The Prime Minister used his personal example to point out safety of the AstraZeneca vaccine.
It was extremely important to me to be able to protect my loved ones, to protect my family, and to do my part. But the reality is, the way we get through this pandemic is to get vaccinated with whatever vaccine is offered to us as quickly as possible.
He was responding to questions about potential but very rare risk of blood clots linked to AstraZeneca or Johnson & Johnson doses. NACI said yesterday that individuals should decide whether to wait for an mRNA vaccine like Pfizer, BioNTech or Moderna. Now that contradicts with Health Canada's advice that people should get the first available vaccine. Trudeau says that advice still stands, adding that the risks from COVID-19 are far greater and far deadlier. And the messaging of a preferred vaccine is creating confusion both for those already vaccinated with AstraZeneca and others still waiting to get their first dose. Farah Morali looks closer at where the discourse went wrong and the potential consequences of mixed messaging when it comes to vaccines.
They need to make an informed choice as to whether they would prefer to get vaccinated sooner with a Janssen or AstraZeneca vaccine, or wait to receive the mRNA vaccine.
Confused? You're not alone. That message from NACI that Pfizer and Moderna are the preferred vaccines has left many scratching their heads.
How do we make sense of this messaging?
I would say that NACI's use of the word preferred was confusing.
This science communicator says NACI missed the mark in yesterday's briefing.
What would have been more clear is to say that the adenovirus vaccines, the AstraZeneca and Janssen J&J vaccines, have associated rare but real risks. If you're in a setting where there's a lot of COVID infection around you, so most parts of Ontario, the risks of COVID are much higher than the risk of these rare side effects.
For those already vaccinated with AstraZeneca, the news was equally confusing.
There was a little momentary panic, like, oh no.
After hearing the news, Rhonda Jessup initially felt she should have waited for another vaccine, but felt differently after reading more into the issue.
The decision was the right one at the time, 2 weeks ago, with the information I have, and I'm confident it's still the right decision.
I was frustrated by it, not because of the information, but because of the way the information is being presented. There's a lot of nuance in science.
The worry now, the impact the messaging will have on those who haven't been vaccinated.
I think it's very unfortunate. I think the net result is probably going to increase vaccine hesitancy around the viral vector vaccines.
There's also the equity issue of who gets the so-called preferred vaccines.
We're asking people who have already borne the brunt of the pandemic, the racialized essential workers, to now take on an additional small risk of this side effect and not wait for a preferred vaccine.
Today, Ontario's Ministry of Health told CBC News the guidance hasn't changed in this province. The best vaccine here is still the first one that's offered to you. Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
1 year ago, Nikki Renault was sleeping in a tent, homeless. Tonight, she has her own apartment.
Long couple of years, it feels like only like a few years, but I feel like I aged like 20 years in the past 2 years. But I can finally feel like I can relax.
I'm Lorenda Redicomp. I'll bring you her story coming up.
A hero's welcome for the passengers of a Hercules military plane that landed at Pearson Airport this afternoon. It carried healthcare workers from Newfoundland and Labrador who are here to help out one of the province's hotspots, Brampton. This is the second medical team to be deployed here to assist in overburdened GTA hospitals. Cloudy with showers this evening. Light rain will continue into the overnight, and as you can see, some fog as well. Temperatures remain below seasonal. Currently, it's about 8 degrees in downtown Toronto. Let's go back to Colette now with a look at your extended forecast. And Colette, yeah, lots of people looking forward to sunnier days.
Thanks, Kelda. Yeah, you know what? We're going to do something about one of the issues we've been having with our weather, and that's the cloud cover. The temperatures, that's going to take a little more time. Not seeing a real change in the short range. So tonight, still some mist drizzle, some isolated showers, primarily cloudy conditions we're dealing with. Late day tomorrow, we'll see those clouds breaking up, so we get some sunshine. It's going to be so nice to feel that midweek. And then the temperatures, that's the other thing. As I look ahead well into the weekend, looks like our readings are going to be staying, not a ton, but a little bit below seasonal for this time of year. The daytime highs today wasn't a problem with the heat for Windsor, with some good sunny breaks there, up to 20 degrees. Hamilton 12 and just 10 for Toronto into Oshawa as well, slightly better into the Kingston area. There's a look through the overnight, a few isolated showers possible, especially to the north of the GTA, and then into tomorrow. I've stopped this at 5 p.m., so this is late afternoon when it will begin, but by the time we're getting to early evening here, we'll be seeing some good breaks developing back towards London, some breaks too. It's going to take a little more time north and to the east as well, but then we get a clearer night overnight Wednesday into Thursday. Doesn't mean the temperatures are going to drop down. A few areas we may be talking about frost. But what we're looking at into Thursday, it means starting off with all kinds of sunshine from eastern Ontario, stretching through the Golden Horseshoe, back towards southwestern Ontario. And then let me roll this forward and show you how things change. So an isolated shower is possible through Toronto. It's a really slim chance there. Mostly it's going to be a decent day with just increasing cloudiness. But as we get into the evening hours, we will find some rain, even a few thunderstorms developing back towards southwestern Ontario. And then by Friday into the GTA, good chance for some showers coming back. Overnight tonight, yeah, your temperatures in southwestern Ontario, a little cooler than they were last night. And tomorrow afternoon, a little cooler Windsor than it was today. You're going to knock 5 degrees off that daytime high. Tonight around the GTA with all that cloud cover and some drizzle and isolated showers. But then into tomorrow, the earlier we get that sunshine, the warmer those temperatures will actually be. And they may pop up a little warmer. I've got 13 for Toronto. And then you can see those numbers going through the period. Overnight lows as well, running 3 or so, 3-4 degrees below seasonal, Kelda. That's not so bad.
Not too bad. Thanks so much, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
Thousands of people in this city are without a home. For some, the pandemic has made things worse, but others have found permanent housing. Lorenda Redekop has the story of one woman who recently moved into her own place after years of living on the streets.
Oh, to my keys to my home. Thank you so much.
Her own apartment.
It feels real now.
It's been a long journey for Nikki Renault. She was kicked out of her house at 16, living on the streets on and off for many years. Her new place is in a building for women run by the YWCA. It's all newly refurbished, and there's something extra poignant about the view.
The Olive Gardens from here.
And that's a park that you used to sleep in, hey?
Broken down front house there. There was a porch on there that I used to sleep on. A friend of ours.
We first met just over a year ago. She and her boyfriend Romeo were staying in a tent outside Sanctuary, a church and drop-in. At that time, they didn't feel safe in shelters during COVID.
The residents can come and go as they want. I mean, like, who knows who they've been around.
They moved into a temporary shelter apartment building in Midtown, but it was a struggle, with neighbors complaining. Then, most recently, to a shelter hotel that was in outbreak for months.
I'm just glad I'm out of there now. All the noise and the yelling around and doors slamming at first, but people kept getting tested positive, and they didn't really tell anybody.
It's a relief to be here now.
I feel like I aged like 20 years in the past 2 years, but I can finally feel like I can relax.
She had a scare last fall and didn't think she'd survive. It was caused by years of alcohol abuse.
I was throwing up blood, and my liver was failing.
She hasn't wanted to touch a drink since.
Since October, I've been sober. And it feels good because, you know, I see things kind of differently, right? And I've been drinking for so long that I never saw things in a different way like this.
Now that she's settled in at home, she's starting to help others as well. She's volunteering with an Aboriginal AIDS support organization.
Because I've been there, and I want to help as much as I can and maybe give back to the community too, because they've helped me get to where I am now.
And sharing her story, she hopes it might spark a change in someone else.
It's hard, but it can be done, you know, and just need to be patient and don't give up.
But she also just wants to enjoy the simple pleasures, like being able to take a nap on her couch.
I don't have to wander the streets not knowing where to go. It's just good. It's a relief. It's a lot of weight off my shoulders.
Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.